In medieval society, a woman's body did not belong to her. It belonged to her father until marriage. Then it belonged to her husband. And above all, it belonged to the church. The church dictated how a woman could live, who she could marry, and what her role was. Priests preached obedience, submission, and purity while quietly turning away from the screams behind closed doors. A wife could not say no, even if her husband was cruel, even if he was drunk, even if she was pregnant, ill, or bleeding. Refusing a husband was seen as sin. In the eyes of the church, marital duty was sacred even if it felt like torment. There were no shelters, no laws protecting wives. If she resisted her husband's demands, she could be punished as a heretic. A sinful wife was believed to bring misfortune to the household. If crops failed, it was her disobedience. If a child died, it was her failure. If her husband fell ill, it was her curse. For many, the only escape from a brutal marriage was death. But some tried to run, some dared to fight, and history did not forgive them. In 1321, in the village of Dunmow, a woman named Alice was accused of poisoning her husband. He had beaten her nearly to death many times, left her without food for days, and forced himself on her nightly. But when he suddenly died of illness, the neighbors accused her of murder. No proof, no witness, just a widow, and that was enough. She was dragged before the manor court, tied to a stake, and burned alive. The record says, Alice, wife of Stephen, executed for rebellion, not murder, rebellion, because to fight back against a husband, even in defense, was treason. Divorce in the medieval world was nearly impossible. The church allowed only annulment. If the marriage had never been consummated, or if there was proof of close blood relation, but proving that was nearly impossible for peasants, so most women remained trapped year after year, decade after decade. In some cases, the church did intervene, but not to help women. It intervened to enforce control. A woman named Ysabel, from a village near Bordeaux, France, was brought before a local priest after refusing to return to her abusive husband. She had taken shelter with a nun at the edge of the village. She had bruises on her face. Her ribs were broken, but the priest said, "Your place is with your husband. Obedience is your salvation." She returned home the next day. 3 weeks later, she was dead. No investigation followed, and it wasn't just poor women who suffered. Even noble women, those with titles and land, were often treated like pawns. Their marriages were arranged for alliances, dowries, and politics. Their opinions didn't matter. Isabella of France, Queen of England, was forced to marry Edward II. He ignored her, humiliated her, and openly favored male companions. She endured for years, raising his children, enduring political ridicule. Eventually, she led a rebellion and had him deposed. But for that, she was called the Ysabel of France, a villain, a monster. Because a woman who took control was not admired, she was feared. Another noblewoman, Eleanor of Aquitaine, was married first to the King of France, then to the King of England. She bore many children, endured betrayal, and eventually was imprisoned by her own husband for supporting her sons in rebellion. Even queens weren't safe. So what chance did a peasant girl have? Widowhood was often the only breath of freedom a woman could hope for. If her husband died, and if she had no sons, she might regain control over a small piece of land. She might sell bread, weave cloth, or work as a midwife. But even then, she was at risk. Widows were seen as temptresses, accused of witchcraft, or targeted by men seeking free labor or easy wives. In one Welsh village, in 1389, a woman named Aquitaine was accused of casting spells because she refused to remarry. Her only crime was wanting to live alone. She was banished from the parish. And yet, through all of this, women endured. They raised children in cold huts with no medicine. They tended gardens while bleeding from childbirth. They whispered songs to each other in the dark when no one else would listen. They taught daughters to hide their tears, and sons to be careful men. In rare cases, women found love after suffering. One story survives from the town of Lavenham in England. A woman named Mary was married young to a violent tanner. After his death, she met a kind-hearted shoemaker named Walter. He was poor, quiet, and had never married. They wed in secret, without priest or permission, simply joining hands and sharing a loaf of bread before a neighbor. That was their wedding. No record of abuse, no court dispute, just silence and peace. Their story is rare, but it mattered, because in a time when marriage was a contract of pain, even one moment of kindness was worth remembering. Evil marriage was not made for women. It was made to control them, to bind them, to trade them, and though some escaped, most did not. They were sold as brides, used as labor, punished for resisting, and forgotten in the dust of time. But if we listen closely to the records, the letters, the whispers of the past, we will hear them, we will remember them. Their pain was real. Their voices were silenced, but not anymore.